Well, I see the red light is on. That's my cue, as the manual says, to say the following. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening, afternoon, depending on what part of the world or country you hail from. I'm your host, Steve Harkins, for the music channel on Talk Shop Live. And thanks so much for joining us. We know you have a myriad of viewing and entertainment options, and that's why we strive to raise the bar and give you insights from the entertainment world that you don't necessarily get anywhere else. And tonight, we finally complete a mission to recognize a giant in so many ways. And with that, Sam, if you would, please roll the digital. Now, Olivia Newton-John's appeal spans generations, timeless as she provided us an amazing gift of entertainment for over 5 decades and resonates to this very day. Entertainment option. Her father, a Nobel Prize winning physicist. She was born in England, raised in Australia. She cut her first single in 1966. Amazing. Her first album produced her first top 10 single, Let Me Be There, which also received honors from the ACM as Most Promising Female Vocalist and a Grammy as Best Country Vocalist. Fast forward, and over her entire career, she has sold an astounding 100 million albums. Over that, in fact, that's just incredible. 4 Grammy Awards, numerous awards from the American Music Association, Country Music, and People's Choice. 10 number one hits, including Physical, which held the number one position for 10 consecutive weeks, making it the number one single in the 80s. And there were an awful lot of major hits in the 80s. That's something to say. Billboard named it in the top 10 songs of all time. Her appearance in the 1978 musical film, of course, Grease, with John Travolta, blew her career wide open, and the film remains a favorite for every generation since its release. She's danced with Gene Kelly in Xanadu. In addition to her music and film career, she starred in countless television shows and was an accomplished author. She received the OBE from Queen Elizabeth and received an AO, the Officer of the Order of Australia. And her commitment to many humanitarian causes is up there with all of her greatest contributions to date. This led her to being named a companion AC of the Order of Australia, which is the highest honor in the country. And this is simply, folks, skimming the surface of her accomplishments. We're celebrating the memory and amazing contributions of one Olivia Newton-John. Her final project is now available together as an exclusive bundle entitled Just the Two of Us, the Duets Collections Volume 1 and 2, and they include Barry Gibb, John Travolta, Richard Marx, Michael McDonald, Cliff Richard, Delta Goodrum, John Cicada, Andy Gibb, Dionne Warwick, Marie Osmond, Anne Murray, her daughter Chloe, the previously unreleased Hopelessly Devoted to You with Mariah Carey, and her final recording, Jolene, with the one and only Dolly Parton. And there's so many other artists and great music on these collections. You can purchase this exclusive bundle right here and right now by simply hitting the buy button below. And you'll also receive a beautiful 8x10 photograph of Olivia that she hand selected personally for her fans, and also has a facsimile signature included. Thank you for your continued support of the music legacy of the one and only Olivia Newton-John. Mariah Carey recalled, I dressed up as Bad Sandy from Grease in 5th grade for Halloween, and I thought I was everything. And years later, I'm singing Hopelessly Devoted to You on stage with Olivia, which is a moment I will never, ever forget. Tonight, our guest was intimately involved in many of Olivia's affairs, central to the focus of this evening. Olivia's Just the Two of Us Duets project, hoping he can share some great insights with Olivia's fans. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome confidant, close friend, and publicist for Olivia Newton-John, Michael Caprio.
Hey, Steve.
How are you, Michael? Thanks so much for being here this evening.
Good. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's our pleasure. And I'd also want to mention, too, Olivia's fans, if you're interested in asking a question or having a comment, just put them in the chat function, and we'll get to as many of them as possible. So before we get into some of the wealth of knowledge and great stories that Michael has, let's look and listen to a clip from the project. The duet partners need no introduction here. And I'm just going to say, Sam, if you would, please roll the digital.
Hey, this is Dolly, in case you didn't recognize me, and I am so excited to be working with Olivia Newton-John, one of my favorites of all time. We've kind of always stayed close through the years, and I am just so proud to be a part of this duet project that she's doing. We're singing one of my all-time favorites that I've written called Jolene, and she says it's one of her favorites, so why not just do a duet on our favorite?
I'm excited. I've always wanted to sing with Dolly.
Jolene, 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 I'm begging of you, please don't take my man. Jolene, 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 please don't take him just because you can. Your beauty is beyond compare, with flaming locks of auburn hair, with ivory skin and eyes of emerald green. Your smile is like a breath of spring, your voice is soft like summer rain, and I cannot compete with you, Jolene. He talks about you in his sleep, there's nothing I can do to keep from crying when he calls your name, Jolene. Oh, but I can easily understand how you could easily take my man. You don't know what he means to me, Jolene. Jolene, 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 I'm begging of you, please don't take my man. Jolene, 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 please don't take him just because you can.
Wow, really powerful. And that was, in fact, the final recording that Olivia made. And I'm wondering, Michael, if you can share some of your insight on the assembling of that recording. Obviously, it was during the pandemic, based on the masks that we saw. But maybe you can give us a little background too on how Olivia looked upon Dolly as such a terrific entertainer and singer.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it's an interesting story. I mean, obviously, everybody knows Dolly's history with Jolene, and most of the fans know as well that Olivia had her own hit with Jolene back in the '70s as well. And God, probably about 15 years ago, my husband and I, we were having dinner with Olivia, and he said, "Hey, I would really love to see you and Dolly record that as a duet." And he goes, "I always wanted to see the two blondes do it together." And Olivia laughed and she goes, "Oh, I love Dolly. I've always wanted to sing with her." And then, fast forward, 15 years later, when we got to the point where it happened, Dane Bryant, who is Olivia's longtime musical director, Dane actually knows Dolly's producer pretty well, and the topic came up again. He reached out to him, called Dolly. Dolly immediately said, "Oh my God, absolutely." So, it was an idea born 15 years ago, but thanks to Dane connected Dolly, made it all happen. And interesting story. I remember Dane telling me that Olivia recorded, obviously, it was during the pandemic. So Olivia was in Santa Barbara, where she
Right.
recorded that, and Dolly was in Nashville. And Olivia recorded her portion first and then sent the tracks to Nashville. And apparently Dolly, called Dane right after she heard them, and she goes, "I'm a little nervous now. I'm a
Really?
little intimidated. Her vocals are just off the hook." Just literally to know that Dolly was a little nervous about Olivia's vocals.
Wow.
But they have a long history, as you may know. Back when Olivia was having all of her success in the country world in the early '70s, and she was winning awards. People turned their back. "Oh my God, she's an Aussie girl from England with English producers, Australian producers. This isn't country music." And Dolly and Loretta Lynn came to her rescue. And
Right.
I remember Olivia telling me a story how when that was all going on, they all went out to dinner, the three of them. And
Amazing.
when this album was done, when the song was done, Olivia and Dolly had a conversation. Obviously, they weren't in person. And Olivia said, "I just want to thank you, Dolly, because 50 years ago, I will never forget that. And I'll never forget that dinner. I'm not sure if you remember it." And Dolly said to Olivia, honey, of course, don't you even pay no mind to that and pay no mind to those people. She said, and I was just thrilled to have dinner with you because I was a big fan and I wanted to do.
I
so,
love that. That's so great.
it's always a nice memory. So to see that as the last recording is kind of bittersweet, and to see the success it had was great.
I'm not surprised to hear that story either. We just did recently kind of a celebration of the last project for Loretta Lynn too. We had a Heart of Gold. I mean, all three women, just amazing souls, no question about it. Not
Yeah,
surprised to hear that. Thanks for
yeah,
sharing that.
no, please.
And I also noticed too that this was at a point in time where she didn't have a whole lot of strength, but she's sitting down, and if you didn't see it on the vocal or on the video, you wouldn't even know,
Yeah,
because her voice, is instantly recognizable and strong, and to her credit, she gave everything that she had, and it's a beautiful track that she laid down.
yeah. She had a ton of fun, and Steve Royale, who's been her longtime vocal coach, backup singer, family member. Steve's wife Martha was Olivia's tour assistant on the road. So Olivia was very much about having a small family.
Yeah,
We were really all did become a family, and we all still are a family, which is, it's just we now have to celebrate her without her being there. But
that's
yeah,
right.
that was a special, especially, and she was, she was, yeah, as you saw, and as Dolly even said, wow, her vocals.
Yeah,
She might have had a little
that's a
trouble
testament.
standing up a lot, standing on her feet, for a long time, but put her in that chair and let her sing, and she killed it.
She sure did, for sure. And it's Michael. It's hard to believe. It's that it's been almost 2 years, not
Yeah,
quite, since we lost her. But I'm really struck by the comments made by both family and friends that cite they often feel her presence, a fairly strong
yeah,
presence.
yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's funny. I was in Australia. It's a completely side story, and I'll tell it quickly because I know there's a lot to get to. But
Yeah,
when I was down there last year we do this walk for her hospital to raise funds for the Olivia Newton-John Cancer Wellness and Research Center, and I had gone down, and it was the first time I was in Australia, in Melbourne in particular, where she grew up, and we spent a lot of time there because that's where the hospital is. It was the first time I was there without her, and that was a very bizarre trip. And we used to do this. We would always land, and then we would go for this walk around the botanical gardens, and there's this war memorial in the right near the Melbourne Botanical Gardens, and we would climb up the steps, and she would always want to take a selfie with the city of Melbourne behind us. And so I
yeah.
went up there and I took the picture, and I got really emotional because it was just me, and it was the first selfie I took without her without her next to me.
Yeah.
And I started to walk down the memorial steps, and I was, getting a little teary. And I actually tried to do Facebook Live, and I had to cut it because I started to get emotional.
I'm sure.
And as I was going down, this dog came running over. There was a woman talking to another woman, and in Australia, no one's dogs are on leashes; they're all well behaved. The
Yeah.
dog came running over, and I was missing my dogs, and I'm petting on the dog. I'm like, oh my God. And the woman's go, oh, I'm so sorry. Is she bothering you? I said, no, no. I said, I'm missing my dogs. I said, I need this dog energy. And she goes, oh no, she's okay. I'm like, no, no, she's totally fine. She's totally fine. And I said, oh, what's her name? And she goes, oh, it's Olivia.
Oh
And
my gosh. Oh,
I literally, thank God I had sunglasses on. I started to cry, and
I'm
I
sure.
said, "It was so lovely meeting you." And I walked into the gardens to get away from it. So
Wow.
she
Powerful.
does. I've felt her. I've seen her. In places where I know she's still with us.
I'm not surprised to hear that at all. When and where did the two of you meet? Let's start there.
It's actually a very funny story. So
Yeah.
I used to work at a small record label that was distributed by Universal, and we were working on a project called "Mommy, Give Me a Drink of Water" with Dee Khan, who was obviously Frenchie in Greece.
Yeah.
So I was Dee Dee's publicist, and Dee Dee was going to the 20th anniversary Greece, re-release of the movie for the 20th anniversary in 1998, and she called me up, and her brother was supposed to go with her, and he's an opera singer, and he was an understudy for one of the leads at the Metropolitan Opera in New York.
Hmm.
So she was going with her brother, and whatever reason, his phone call happened, and he had to go back to New York. And she called me, and she said, honey, what are you doing, with that voice of hers? I can't even pretend to try to,
Yeah.
mimic it. She goes,
Right.
what are you doing on Sunday? And I said, don't screw around with me, Dee Dee. I want to go, because she knew I was a fan, and she knew I have loved Olivia since, you know, the early 70s.
Yeah.
And I met her at the Four Seasons Hotel. Dee Dee was getting all ready, and Olivia was going with Chloe, who was like, God, I can't remember what Chloe was, maybe 10 or 12 years old at that point. And Dee Dee knew I was a fan, and you know, the door knocked, and Dee Dee was getting her nails done and her hair done, and she goes, "Oh, honey, go get that." And I opened the door, and it was Olivia. I was like,
Amazing.
so we spent the whole day at the, you know, it was this whole, you know, red carpet. It was a whole big thing. It was a wonderful, wonderful time. And the after party at the Palladium in Hollywood, Olivia didn't have her own PR at that point because she had taken time off to raise Chloe. So it was really the team from Paramount that was handling her. But Travolta wasn't there, so everybody wanted Olivia. So she's being pulled and pulled, and this is when we still had digital cameras, not phones. And people are like, "Oh, Olivia, Olivia." So I turned to Dee Dee and I said, "Can I go rescue her?" And she goes, "Please do." So I walked over and I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I need to grab Olivia for an interview. I'll bring her back, I promise." And I opened a door and walked out, and we were literally at the back of the Palladium with the kitchen door and the dumpsters for the garbage right next to us.
Right.
And Olivia looked at me, and I, you know, she didn't know me all that well. We'd met a couple of times, but it was one of those things where she's like, "What are we doing here?" I said, "You look like you needed rescuing." And she goes, "Oh, thank you." So we sat out there for about 15 minutes. Dee Dee came out and joined us. And then I said, "Okay, we should probably get you back inside." And then 3 days later, Olivia called me and she said, "Hey, I've got this project, and would you want to work with me?" And I was like, "Yeah." And
Boy,
that
fate.
was,
Talk
yeah,
about a
that
twist of
was
fate.
truly, I see what you did there.
I had to throw that in there. That was low hanging fruit. You know, let's talk about Greece a little bit. You were there. It was it the 40th anniversary event, right?
That was the 20th anniversary when I met her, but then the
right.
40th anniversary, we did this whole thing at the Motion Picture Academy.
Yeah. And I bring that up because you were nice enough. We rated when you weren't looking your files, your photo files, and video files, and I think this might be the first time people publicly have seen it, maybe not, but it's a 10-second clip, which I thought was pretty cool. And if we could, Michael, we're going to share that. Sam, if you got it, let's roll the digital.
Oh.
Look at that. Boy, I could go for a little more footage there. It's pretty amazing. It had to, boy, had to give you goosebumps. The two of them together, recreating some magic there on the fly, and full circle 20 years later, right from when you first met her.
Truly, that was a special day. They did a screening of the film. Mario Lopez was the moderator. It was that was a special day. The you know, the energy when those two are together. You know, I've gotten to know John, you know, pretty well over the years, and just, it's weird when you're with them alone. You know, I've been alone at, you know, her house, his house, wherever we've been. Once you're in public with the two of them, it was a whole different animal. That was like pop culture just exploding. And you know, you see the looks on these people's faces, and you know, that was a humbling moment for me. It's probably 10 years ago, 10 years earlier than that, when we did this Christmas record with the two of them. We were doing a media tour, and we were in New York, and I remember coming out of Sirius XM, where they had done this panel discussion with Dee Dee moderating it, and we were going across the street to do some interviews at NBC or Fox, I can't remember. And in that time, there had to be 500 people out in front of the building. It was, I've never been scared in a situation with her in public, because fans are, you know, for as passionate as they are, they're very respectful. And that was always something it meant the world to her. To have that fear of, oh my God, this is insane. I can't even imagine what it was like back when the film first came out. Because when I see those clips of, I mean, she was terrified. She would tell me stories about how she was really scared they were going to get hurt. At the Chinese Theater, which is where we did the 20th anniversary, and then as well when the premiere happened in London. But you know, it just
explosive. Travolta was on high. She was building. I mean, it was inevitable, whether it was that film or her next album. You know, you talk about brilliant casting and timing.
Well, and the thing I love about that, and I always love to share this when I have people say to me, "Oh my God, I love Olivia. Greece, so I love Greece. I love Greece." And Greece was her first. And I'm like, actually, she had 3 Grammy Awards before Greece ever happened. And
That's really a great point.
yeah, most
Yeah,
people
people
don't
don't realize it.
realize. They're like, "Oh, I forgot she had all those country albums." And then, obviously all the others, "I Honestly Love You" and all that stuff. But yeah, that was a special time. And then we did the meet in Greece a couple of years later. And sadly, that happened. It was a huge success. We did 3 of them in Florida, where Olivia and John did like a meet and greet with the fans. Then they played the Grease sing along movie, and then afterwards, the T Birds and Randall Kleiser basically ran out into the audience and took questions, and John and Olivia answered questions. And it was such a massive success. We were going to do an entire world tour that was going to
Yeah.
start in the spring. And then, of course, we all know what happened in the spring, in March of 2020. So
Oh, that would have been
kind of
wonderful.
kind of screwed up a lot of plans, because we were going to start in Europe. We were going over originally to do the Olivia was given her damehood by the Queen. So we were going to go to Balmoral Castle in Scotland and get her damehood. And then we were going to do some of these shows, and then basically take it, from Europe to the US to Australia over that period of 2020. And then sadly, by the time, COVID had ended, her health had declined a bit, and it just wasn't an option to revisit it. So
What a brilliant thought, though.
anyone who got to see those shows in Florida, that was pure magic.
Absolutely, I have no doubt about it, and I'm pretty jealous. Boy, it's, and John and Olivia's relationship, like you said, off camera, whatever, it was completely different, but they were very, very close. And I mean, everybody wants to believe like there was some romantic interlude that took place, which never was the case. They were just very close friends from day one.
They were literally close friends. And Kelly, when rest her soul as well, Kelly was just a lovely person. The 3 of them were very, very close friends. And Kelly took over from Olivia with this Healthy Child, Healthy World. It was the Children's Health Environmental Coalition is what it was originally called. And when Olivia was stepping down because she was putting all her focus on her cancer and wellness center in Australia, Kelly Preston took it over. So it was a very close friendship. And to the day she passed. I mean, I remember the morning she passed, and I was actually having spinal surgery, having injections done on my neck, and her husband texted our small little group and told us that she had transitioned. And that was at 10 o'clock in the morning. I got that text, and I had to be in a hospital gown and going under anesthesia. And Olivia hated when I had it done, and it was one of those situations where it was like I had no choice.
Exactly.
And back and forth with her husband, with his statement, so I could post his statement from the family. And just before I posted it on her socials, I'm literally in the hospital, cap in my little gown on, and I went, "Oh crap, I got to text John, because if Jay Travolta, not her husband, I have to text JT and let him know, because he's going to be the first person they go to." And I sent him a text, and he's like, "Oh my God, Michael, can I call you? I had a really weird feeling. Da, 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 da. And I took a picture of myself and I texted it back. I said, "You got to call my husband," because he knows my husband. I said, "Because I'm about to have this done." And I hadn't had a chance to really process it. And when I got they wheeled me in finally into the surgical room. And literally, this was maybe, I'm not kidding you, Steve, this is probably 5 minutes after I had posted that she had passed. And I hear, "You're the One That I Want" playing. And all the nurses are going. And the nurse who walked up to me, she goes, "Oh, we just heard Olivia Newton-John passed away." That's how quickly the news got out. She goes, "Oh, we hope you're a fan, because we're going to play her music all day. We loved her so much." And that's when I lost it. And when I woke up after the surgery, I said, I probably should have let them leave the music on, because that was her way of being in the room with me. But
well, we're still carrying the torch, so you're making up for lost time as far as that's concerned, made up for it tenfold. And that's a good cue for us to take another look and listen, if we can, to a clip from the album. Again, the project is called Just the Two of Us, the Duets Collection. Here is Olivia with her daughter Chloe, and I'm interested to get your thoughts about the two of them performing, because I know it's pure joy for Olivia. Here is some call it "You Have to Believe," some call it magic. It's all of the above. Sam, if you would, please roll the digital for us. Kind of feels a little bit like passing the torch, just kind of like, her beaming. And, look at my daughter because she's front and center. Really interesting treatment. I think this was a pretty big dance hit, wasn't it?
Yeah, it actually was a number one Billboard Dance Club chart song.
Right.
It was huge. It was Chloe's first number one, which was great. Olivia obviously has had plenty of them, but that was a very special number one for her because of Chloe. She's, as you see from these collections, Olivia worked with some amazing people, and she was blessed to work with all of them. But if you were to say to her who was her favorite duet partner, it would definitely be Chloe.
No question.
And she's a
Rightfully
talented
so.
girl. Yeah, she's got her own music coming later this year, so we're excited about that too.
Can we expect an album from her?
Yep, that's the plan right now. She's got I think 5 or 6 tracks already done, so we'll hopefully be making an announcement in the next couple of weeks as to what the timing of that'll be. But yeah, that was a special song, and that was funny because that happened to, obviously you probably figure out, we filmed that video in Vegas. Olivia was doing her residency here, and we were like, okay, we need a location, and blah blah blah. And I said to Olivia, I said, well, look, my friends Kenny and Michael, they own this big gay club here in Vegas, and there's no one in it during the daytime, especially during the week. It's only really open on Thursday through Saturday or Sunday. And she's, do you think, in true Olivia fashion, she never knew who she was. Like, she would never ever play the Olivia card. Like, she always looked at herself as just like, I'm just like everybody else. And if there was special treatment, she didn't want it.
Yeah.
That was, and she goes, oh, do you think that they would let us do that? And I looked at her and I'm like, are you serious? So
Amazing.
we ended up filming the music video there, and we got all the people from Legends in Concert, because they were sharing the room that Olivia was in at the Flamingo, and I rep the Chippendales. So we had the Chippendales involved. We had all these drag queens. We literally had, it was the kitschiest Vegas video, and it was so fun. And then when it was finally done, we actually did the music video release party at the same gay club, and that was insanity in a great way.
Yeah.
Olivia was dancing, and I remember turning at one point and seeing her and my husband literally dancing like crazy in the VIP section, and I was like, okay, she's having a really good time. She's not ready. So a lot of celebrities would like, oh, I got to go show up, do red carpet, and then I got to get out of here.
Not her.
When Olivia, everything Olivia did is she would say to me, well, that sounds like fun. If it's fun, let's do it. Like, that was her energy, especially in the last 10 years. It was, if it's not fun, why do it?
What a great attitude. Not surprised to hear that at all. Let's hear from some of the fans. They've been really patient, if that's okay.
Sure.
This is Winez. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Says, hi, Michael. Also, Nancy says, hello, Michael, from Texas. We got people from all over the place. And hello, Winez. And I hope I got your name right. Forgive me if I didn't. Randy is saying hello from Las Vegas. And I think you got an interesting story that maybe we'll get to about Vegas, probably more than one. And Michael says, hello, you were a fan before working for you, or before working for her, and asked how'd you start working for her? And I think we got the connection there. So thanks for asking, Michael. Lori is from Arizona and saying hello. Randy says loves all the photos. As I said, when Michael wasn't looking, we raided the files, and boy, there was a lot of great ones that we left on the cutting floor. Some for obvious reasons. They're all fun. They're all wonderful shots. And I think when this is all said and done, maybe we can coax him to coming out with his own book, because boy, between the pictures and the stories, I think it's warranted. Olivia is from Brazil, and she says hello. How about that?
Hello.
Joel wants to know, will any of the duets with Pat Carroll see the light of day on CD or vinyl? Do you know anything about that?
I don't, but I actually thought about that myself. I would love to see that happen. I got to call Pat. And
thanks,
and
Joel. We got our homework assignment now.
Yeah, and it's always a joy for me to talk to John and Pat Farah. They're two of my favorite human beings on the planet.
Absolutely. Gloria is saying hello from Virginia. Also, Joel wants to know, is there a new remastered release in the works to be released soon? I'm assuming he's talking about some of her older records. Any potential discussions? Are you in the loop on that potentially?
Sure. yep, we're actually in talks with the label. We are working on a bunch of different projects, so I can't
Amazing.
say which ones they are just yet, but people can kind of figure out some of the big anniversaries that are happening this year, next year. So yeah, a lot of stuff still coming down the pipe. So I know a lot of people
Really
were,
exciting.
oh, is there more? Is there more? There's going to be plenty more.
That's
That's for
great
sure.
news. That's exciting. Ed wants to know, will Talk Shop feature more Olivia Newton-John releases in the future? Now that we know that there will be future releases, the answer is emphatically, without question. If Michael will come back on, we will gladly have him on. And I just want to say we're celebrating the memory and amazing contributions of one Olivia Newton-John. Her final project is now available together as an exclusive bundle entitled Just the Two of Us. The Duets Collection, Volumes 1 and 2, include Barry Gibb, John Travolta, Richard Marx, Michael McDonald, Cliff Richard, Delta Goodrum, John Cicada, Andy Gibb, Dionne Warwick, Marie Osmond, Anne Murray, and her daughter Chloe. You saw that clip. The previously unreleased "Hopelessly Devoted to You" with Mariah Carey and her final recording, which we all enjoyed. I think a portion of that with the one and only Dolly Parton. And there's so many other artists and great recordings. You can purchase the exclusive bundle right here, right now. Simply hit the buy button. The rest is quick, easy, and I have to tell you, you're going to receive a beautiful 8x10 photograph of Olivia that we have it on good authority. It was hand selected by her for her fans. It also has a facsimile signature included. And also want to share with you that we were in discussions to have her on for quite a long time, and she really wanted to do the show. But, she just wasn't strong enough to do it and wanted to be at her best. And so this is the next best thing that we can do. But, you know, all the way through this thing, she had her thumbprint on it. So what a wonderful piece to own. And it's an heirloom that you can pass on for generations to come. She stood the test of time and she'll continue to do that. So thank you so much for continuing to support the wonderful music of Olivia Newton-John. So with that, I just would like to ask you, you touched on a couple examples, but it's probably second only to managing an artist, but it almost is like managing an artist, being a publicist. And I know there were joyous moments, there were events and challenges. You just cited one where it's like, you're going in for major surgery and you just kick into gear, for obvious reasons. And the very last moment you can hit send button, you're doing it, and this is in your DNA. But I wonder if you can share, like, how one goes about managing the day in the life of Olivia Newton-John, and she had massive ups and downs, as we know.
Well, I mean, the thing about Olivia is it was really, I don't want to say easy, because obviously there's a lot of work. As you know, there's a lot of work that goes into every aspect, whether it's a press tour, whether it's, an event we're doing. But Olivia was, what I love about working with Olivia and most of my clients, because most of my clients are evergreen artists, they get it. They've had the highs, they've had the lows, they've had the good, they've had the bad. So there's really just a sense of gratitude. And, and with Olivia, again, all of my clients are that way, but Olivia was extra when it came to really accepting gratitude for what she had. And as I said, there were times where she's like, "Oh, honey, I want to take some time off. I want to take some time off." And I'm like, "Okay, that's fine. We can take time off. We got plenty of stuff to do. We've got whether it was gearing up for her book that she was in the process of writing. There's obviously that doesn't happen like that. So we'll do all the things leading up to it.
Right.
If it was a situation where it was something that she, like I said earlier, if it was something she thought sounded fun, I actually have a very cute story. We were doing, a friend of mine owns this Atlantis, which is a big gay cruise thing, and my husband and I do them every summer.
Right.
And we go to the Mediterranean, and my friend Rich called me, and it was like 10 days before this gay cruise was happening. He goes, "Hey, where's Olivia on January 23rd?" And I said, "What year?" He goes, "In about 10 days." And I said, "Well, she's at her house in Jupiter in Florida." He goes, "Oh, do you think she would want to come do a 30-minute show to track?" And I said, "Well, I can call her. Let me see." So I called her out, and she was really, really kind of cute. She said, "Oh, that sounds like a lot of fun. When is it?" And I gave her the date. She goes, "Oh, that's when they're installing the kitchen cabinets in the house." She was renovating her condo in
Yeah.
Florida. And I just laughed. Having been with her for so long, I know you just don't say no the minute she says no, because she'll stop and think. And she called me back the next day and she said, "Hey, did you say no to that gay cruise?" And I said no. She goes, "Well, it sounds like fun and it'll pay for some of the kitchen." So we laughed and we went and we did it. And I'll never forget. They flew us all. The ship left out of Fort Lauderdale, but we met the ship in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and
Yeah.
they flew me and my husband from Las Vegas, her assistant Martha from Los Angeles, Olivia and John from Miami. And our flights, all we timed it, so all of our flights landed within 15 minutes of each other. So they
Perfect.
take us to the ship. We get to the ship, and there were these four guys dressed in drag as pink ladies. And Olivia, again, this goes back to who she was. She had no makeup on. She'd been traveling. She had her hair pulled back. She had her
Yeah.
glasses on. And she said, "Oh, Michael, take a picture." So I took a picture of her with these four drag queens as pink ladies who were literally like giants.
Yeah.
But when the call happened, I called her, and Steve Real, who is her longtime friend, again family member, but vocal coach. He also worked with Stevie Nicks, and he happened to be in New York with the Grammys with Stevie, so he couldn't
Uh-huh.
be there. So I called her up, and she called me up, and she goes, "Oh, Michael, oh no, I don't know if I can do this." I said, "What happened?" She goes, "Well, I can't do any of the Grease songs because Steve is in New York with Stevie Nicks." So I called my friend Rich and I said, "Okay, Olivia's kind of panicking because she can't do, You're the One That I Want in Summer Nights." And he goes, "Michael, it must be a blessing." I said, "What?" He goes, "There's a permanent production of Grease on this Royal Caribbean ship."
Oh,
So he goes, "We'll get the
that's
cast
great.
members from the show." So I called her up, and again, speaks volumes of who she was. I called her up and I said, "Okay, honey, crisis averted. So you can't do Suddenly from Xanadu. They'll have to live without that. But there's a permanent production of Grease. We can have the boy playing Danny Zuko, and in fact, all of the rest of the cast members be, the Pink Ladies and T-Birds." And she literally said to me, she goes, "Oh, honey, I want to make them work on their night off." And I
Yeah.
looked at her and I
Yeah,
said,
I'm sure
"Olivia,
they're all
it's
gonna
a
say, "Yeah, we're
20,
not doing that."
exactly." I said, "It's a 23-year-old boy playing Danny Zuko on a cruise ship. I think he's going to be thrilled to sing with you."
I think
And it
so.
turned out to be a beautiful night. But again, it goes back to who she was. Like, she never thought she was anyone special.
Yeah, really
She didn't
grounded.
want these poor kids to be, singing on their day off.
Exactly. Let's talk about some of the artists.
Sure.
One that comes to mind is Anne Murray. What a talent. Haven't seen a whole lot of her, of late, but she's on this album, and you've got some insight you can share with us on Anne.
Yeah, that was a great. I was actually lucky enough to be in the studio when they recorded that track. We got the phone call that Anne was doing a duet record. She wanted Olivia
Yeah.
to sing Cotton Jenny with her, and we're trying to figure out where and when we could do it, because Olivia, if she could, she always loved. Her favorite thing was to sing with somebody. Whether it was Amy Skye and Beth Nielsen Chapman. She loved harmony. She loved being with other people more so than even singing on her own. So we were
Yeah.
trying to figure it all out, and it just worked out that the timing was happening, and Chloe was going through a period with when she was diagnosed with anorexia, and the tabloids were really going after her. And I, said to Olivia, I said, "Well, look, we should get ahead of this, and let me talk to Chloe and see if we can do an interview." So we ended up doing an interview for Entertainment Tonight in the studio next to where Olivia recorded the song with Anne. And just being in that room, watching the two of, I mean, they're two legends, and
Yeah.
to hear them, and I think they did that in, it might have been one take, maybe two.
Incredible.
And
Not
again,
surprised.
it was magic for me to watch, just to pardon the pun, but I'm bummed,
Yeah. Yeah.
to see that, and to see how professional they both were, but like the instincts they both had that day was incredible. And it's a day I'll never forget. And we recorded that in the Capitol Records building in Hollywood. So I'm
What a
on top
brilliant
of,
studio.
yeah, on top of the moment of being in it with those two icons, to be in that iconic building, in that
Yeah,
studio where so many, I mean, legends recorded.
absolutely.
You could feel the energy.
Yeah, I've been in that studio. I know exactly what you're talking
Yeah.
about. Yeah, for sure. Joel, is saying hello. We also have Sam from Pensacola, Florida. Michael wants to know, will there be a volume 3? Is there enough material out there potentially to to consider that?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's plenty of material. You know, who owns it? I mean, that's the one we get a lot of fans. Why wasn't this on it? Why wasn't that on it? And a lot of it is just,
It's
who
a
owns
little bit
this?
of
Who owns that?
politicking,
Yeah,
right? It's not,
exactly. It's
you don't just pick up the phone and ask and they say,
yeah,
okay. It's not as simple as that.
correct. Correct. Because there is, I
Yeah.
mean, there's plenty to probably do 10 volumes, to be completely honest. Like I said, she loved doing duets, and
Yeah.
there's some I would love to see on another volume at least. But again, that's I leave that to the legal beings who handle all of that stuff.
That's why they make the
But
big dollars,
yeah,
right? So they say. So I've been
true.
told. Yeah. Jose saying love the Dolly duet with
Yeah.
Olivia. Yeah, I think we all do for sure. Um,
Mhm.
let's see. Jose, again, is just saying Gaia, please, her favorite album. Gaia was a pretty big brand for her, wasn't it?
Mhm. Yes, yeah. It started with the album. Obviously, she
Yeah.
wrote that album when she was in Australia, recovering from her first bout with breast cancer in
Yeah.
'92. And it was a special record on a lot of different levels. For her, it was a cathartic thing, and it helped her through what was a difficult time. But it was also the first time that she'd written and recorded the whole album herself,
Yeah.
which was a new thing for her, and I think it's why it was so personal to her and to a lot of the fans, including myself. And then again, following up as well with Grace and Gratitude, that album. Similar, she and Amy Sky, I think, created magic with that record, and all the other musicians and folks who were involved. But Amy was obviously, that was the driving force, the two of them on that record. But Gaia, yeah, and then obviously she created Gaia Retreat and Spa,
Yeah.
which was,
Huge.
if she they sold it, but it literally was one of the most magical places I've ever been in my life.
Well, I'm
I miss
sure.
I
I
miss being
regret I
there.
haven't been there.
You could feel it. I mean, you can still go, and the energy of that land, and it's still still you can still feel her there,
Yep.
very much so. So it's a beautiful place.
Yeah, and by the way, Michael's doing a shout out for Grace and Gratitude right on your comments there, Michael.
Okay.
And Ray would like to know, why Volume 2 featured many more tracks than Volume 2, and do you think, we know that there could be subsequent volumes, but Volume 1, uh, it just felt like, right, things were on a roll, and it's like, why stop now? And Volume 2 was put together pretty quickly, I believe, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I know they had a lot of the tracks that they were focusing on, and there were some
Yeah,
tracks, like I said, that, to my knowledge, I don't know all the ins and outs of all of them, but there were some that there were issues with clearances that we, had to pull certain things off that we originally had on, just again for legal reasons.
for sure.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, volume one was really a passion project, because most people don't realize this. Olivia, uh, she was instrumental as well in a lot of, not just the music side of it. The photos for both covers. She had chosen those photos long
Mm,
before she had passed. Obviously, she knew
yeah,
she wanted those two images. They're from, actually, they're, most people don't, some fans might see it. They were screen grabs, actually, from her Live On music video. And Robert
wow,
Linden, an amazing director photographer, Robert put that all together and pulled those grabs, and she knew immediately she wanted those. And we were talking about design, and we wanted to put all the photos of her with all of her duet partners, and then again, it just turns into a license and clearance nightmare. Well, what
sure,
photographer? Oh, this photographer. Oh, he took it. Oh, how much? Oh, he'll give it to you, but he wants to charge you $3,000 for usage. And it's like,
yeah,
well, we can't do. You look at all the tracks, you add up, favorite nations of 3,000. It would have turned budgets into insanity. So, again, this was in the early stages. Olivia was like, well, let's just keep it very serene. Like, I want it. So that's actually the insides. I know a lot of fans are like, oh, why aren't there any photos? And Olivia wanted it to be simple and about nature, about being grounded, and
and
I personally love them,
yeah, and
because I
how
feel
great,
her when I look at them. I feel
yeah,
her.
yeah, for sure, and how great that, again, she was engaged even down to that level.
Mm-hmm.
That this truly
Yep.
was a project that wasn't, after she passed, but that,
Mm-hmm.
she was involved, right to the very end of the
Yeah.
project being completed, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And you know, this is an interesting question. Were there any duets on her list of wishes as far as an artist that she wanted to duet that just never came to fruition?
Well, it's interesting. One that I know that she, she never had regrets. That was one thing she said. Don't regret anything. You can't,
Yeah.
you, you can't regret anything in life. But when Chloe was born and Chloe was young, she had the opportunity to tour with Frank Sinatra, and unfortunately, she turned it down just because Chloe was a baby. And I know she recording with him would have probably been a big deal for her because she loved, obviously, who doesn't love Frank Sinatra. But again, she pretty much sang with almost everybody she wanted to sing with.
Check the boxes.
John Farnham, one of our all-time favorite singers. She's one of the first ones to say, Barry Gibb, and oh my gosh, obviously Dolly was great. Travolta, she loved performing with
Yeah.
Travolta.
Yeah.
John Cicada, Richard Marx. I mean, these are people who weren't just duet partners; they were actually friends.
Yeah, yeah, that's so great. Well, speaking of which, he's been a regular here, and we're fans of him. Richard Marx. What can you tell us about his involvement with the project?
Well, Richard, it's funny. I wasn't with them when they actually recorded that track, but this was back. Gosh, I think it was. Oh my God, fans are going to yell at me. I think it was 2000, 2002, somewhere in that early 2000s. I should know this. I'm sorry.
You're allowed, Michael. Your wealth of knowledge. You're allowed.
Oh gosh, yeah. But Richard, he's always been very public about how he was in love with Olivia. He had a crush on Olivia.
Yeah.
Olivia actually hosted, I think it was his 21st birthday party. She met Richard through David Foster, and she hosted his 21st birthday party at Wolfgang Puck's in Hollywood back in the day when that was the place to be. And they went on to do a lot of different things together. And I remember after he recorded this duet, it was funny because Richard is an amazing guy. I adore the guy. I've been lucky enough that he's been a client as well. Richard was doing a thing. I think it was for the Ronald McDonald House, which is a charity he works for. And I don't want to say paybacks because it was never the way it was, but Olivia wanted to do something for him after he had recorded this track. So what they ended up doing was he invited Olivia to come to Chicago. So Olivia and I flew to Chicago, and he invited us out to his house for dinner. He had this beautiful house on the lake in Chicago, and we sit down, and he had this chef made this beautiful meal, and the four of us are just sitting there having this great dinner. And then we went out back, and we're looking out at the lake, and the moon was full, and it was just one of those magical moments.
Perfect.
And Richard said, "Well, Olivia, so I love the dinner. It was wonderful. Thank you." He's like, "Oh, I hope you liked it. We know you were vegetarian, and Richard's vegan now. Actually, I don't think he was vegan at the time.
Is that right?
But he goes, "Oh, we made this especially for you because you're vegetarian." And Olivia started laughing. She goes, "I'm not vegetarian." And she was at one point, but that was one of the funny stories. But
they didn't get the press release. She was back as a carnivore.
Exactly. But that event that we did for the Ronald McDonald House, he and Olivia sang "You're the One That I Want" together, and he just was like a 14-year-old schoolboy, with his crush, and they performed together multiple times. She sang a song with him on one of his concerts, and she just showed up on stage. So
I'm from Chicago as well. He and I crossed paths many times. Like his first few albums, was working it, and he's such a talent. And his father was a major jingle writer. He's a force to be reckoned with as well. So definitely in the DNA, no question.
Absolutely. And his kids too. As he jokes, the Marx Brothers, his three boys, they're all amazingly talented as well. And actually, about kind of maybe a year or 2 years after Olivia finished her residency, Richard called and goes, "Hey, can you help me? Can you work with me on my Vegas residency? I'm going to be at the Flamingo." I said, "Oh my God!" So he was actually in the same theater Olivia did her residency at. And his dressing room was her old dressing room. So when I walked into that dressing room, it was like 3 years of, being in that room, every week. Just suddenly go, "Oh wow!" And now it's got Richard.
Well, there we go. Yeah. And Marie Osmond, it's another one. She's been on the show, and what a talent. Obviously, the whole family. And she was definitely. She said she's a huge fan of Olivia's.
Yeah. She was not only a huge fan, they were like sisters.
Yeah,
And I will say from a personal standpoint, Marie, if you're watching, I love you. Marie literally was my savior after we lost Olivia. She texted, called literally almost every single day.
really.
To this day, we at least text at least once a week. When she's touring, a little less, but she and Olivia were, they were sisters. They were two people who were very grounded, very down to earth, who uh, happened to have success kind of at the same time in the
Right.
70s, and managed to be icons, both of them,
Yeah.
across the board. And more importantly, it was Olivia was the sister she could talk to. She could have those conversations that when you're in this business, not everybody in this business is someone you want to tell secrets to, or
It's
tell things
true.
to, or share things with. And Marie was one of those people. They were confidants with each other, and
How
I like I said,
fortunate.
I thank God every day for her.
Yeah, and this is, people don't realize this is not a natural lifestyle, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's something you have to pursue if you have that gift. It's like there's no
Yeah,
turning back. But
yeah,
it's not easy. People feel you just, you show up to work and you put in a
yeah,
2 hour day as far as a
yeah,
performance. There's interviews, there's a grind, and
yeah,
fans can be wonderful, but they all could be taxing at the same time when you're looking for a little time to come up for air, and then the ups and downs, as
mm,
you mentioned
yeah,
before too, which is not easy to contend with. Um,
yeah.
Paul Anka, what, boy,
Uh,
talk about an icon. He's on this album.
yeah.
It's his song too, isn't it? Is it his song that's covered, right?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah. Put your head on my shoulder. Yeah.
yeah,
When, because Paul and Olivia, they share the same label,
yeah.
obviously. And I was brought on by the label. The label actually introduced me to Paul, which was really a great full circle moment for my personal family.
Right.
Paul happened to be in Vegas at the Win. He stayed at the Win all the time. He and Steve Wynn were very close friends. And we met, and it was during COVID, so masks on. We had this private little dining, this Chinese restaurant that he liked, and the intro started with a fist pump, and I thought it was going to be a half hour, quick little, hi, nice to meet you, and almost 2.5 hours later, he's like, oh crap, I gotta go
Wow.
meet my son. He's waiting out by the pool, and he goes, welcome to the family. And then obviously the put your head on my shoulder thing happened, and he said he would love to have her do it, and would she? And I called her, and she loved him. And it just aligned. It was fun. She was a fan. And for me, it was funny because I called my dad after I met with Paul that day, and I said, oh dad, guess what, I just had lunch with Paul Anka. And my dad goes, oh Mike, and I had just lost my mom. It would be 5 years
Oh,
already,
sorry.
but this is a couple years back. But I had just lost my mom, and he goes, Mike, Put Your Head on My Shoulder was the first song your mom and I danced to when we were 13 years old in your grandmother's living room in the Bronx.
There
So
you
to
go.
have that come full circle with Paul and Olivia,
How wonderful.
years later, to have that important moment for my parents to be an important moment in my life on a different level.
Fantastic. Again, another great story. Waiting for
Yeah.
that book, Michael. I'm telling you. Put me down for 2 copies and growing. For Amy
uh,
Sky. We talked about
uh,
Amy. She's from Canada,
Amy.
right?
Yeah, Amy's
Yeah.
Canadian, brilliant singer songwriter.
Yeah.
She and her husband Mark, two of the most talented people I know.
Yeah.
Very close to Olivia. They've worked together. Oh my gosh, I can't even go back as far as they've worked together. But Olivia did an album called Stronger Than Before, and she and Amy just were very tight. And when Grace and Gratitude happened, it was such a personal record for Olivia,
Hmm.
and Amy as well. Just watching that chemistry create what it created, and probably not the everyday person who knows the Grease Olivia Newton-John
Yeah.
would go, oh, but the minute anybody hears that record, they just
Yeah.
fall apart.
You can't
It's great.
manufacture magic, right?
No.
And yeah, they just meshed, no
Yeah.
question about it.
Yeah, look, that record helped so many people too. I mean, another personal thing for us, my husband had he was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma around
Oh,
that period,
oh,
and he went through 10 months of chemo and lost his hair, and got bloated, all the
traumatic.
things that people who go through cancer. But that record, Grace and Gratitude, was Randy's way of literally getting through that journey. And Olivia was, I mean, it was an amazing human. I've watched her with so many different people going through cancer, but between my mom who had leukemia, she was going through chemo, and Randy who had chemo, Olivia was literally the glue to
Yeah.
help us get through a lot of that. You know,
Yeah.
I remember her saying to Randy, when you go through your chemo, I thought of it when I went through it in 92 as not poison killing the cancer. I thought of it as a healing light going through my body.
What a great
And
analogy.
that's how Randy, got himself through it. And I said
It's
the same thing
brilliant.
to my mom, and she would call my mom. She would send my mom videos. My mom would send her videos because they were both going through. At the time, people didn't realize Olivia was going through what she was going through, but my mom knew, and the two of them, she helped my mom tremendously.
That's
You
so
know,
I'm not
just
surprised to hear that,
yeah,
but it's
yeah.
great to hear it nonetheless.
But I will say, I do want the fans to know one quick thing because I know we're short on time. But one thing, when we would do her visits at her hospital in Australia,
Yeah.
we would do all the press, we would do all the stuff that needed to be done to promote what we were there to promote. But every single trip, she would not leave Australia until she did a walkthrough and visited every patient um, in the Cancer and Wellness Center, as well as her focus being on the palliative care ward, which was named after
Incredible.
her mom, Rainey. And I remember after my mom had passed, it was the year my mom had passed. I was down there with her, and I walked into the first room, and I would always go into the room and kind of stay in the back. I walked in, and I couldn't, like, it was just too raw for me. And
Yeah.
she would take on all of this. It was a combination of joy because these people seeing her, it was just joyful.
Great medicine.
Um, oh, tremendous medicine. But I walked out, and I walked around the corner, and I was a mess. I was crying, and her assistant in Australia, Madonna, was kind of consoling me. And Olivia walked out, and she looked at me and she said, "Honey, you don't have to do this. Go back down to the wellness center and have a cup of tea. I'm good on my own." But to watch her, she would come out of the rooms, and I would see her eyes would start to well up, but she would never do it in the room with the people
Yeah.
because she knew what her being in that room meant to not just the person who was, whether in palliative care or just going through their journey, but to the families of those people.
Right.
And years would go by, and we'd meet people who would come to the walk, and they would say to her, "Oh, you came in and visited my mom. She passed like 2 months later, but you have no idea. She talked about that up until the day she passed." And that to me is who she'll always be to me. Yes, she's a great artist and a great star, but as a person, I'm beyond blessed to have been in her little circle.
Yeah, we're most fortunate to get that insight too. What an absolute wonderful woman. She's a wonderful soul. And I yeah, I know we're near the bewitching hour, but I'd like to get in maybe one or two more if we could. John
Sure,
Cicada.
absolutely.
John
Yeah,
Cicada. What
totally.
about John?
So John's been a client of mine for years,
Yeah.
and Olivia was doing a Christmas record,
Yep.
and there was this song, "Every Time It Snows," and Olivia said, "Oh my God, I love that song. Let's record it for my Christmas record." And John had another song called Lost Inside Your Heart," that he wanted to record for his album. So
Right.
we were in New York doing a press trip. Again, we always tried to find a way we could, what can we do to, like, she loved to do everything in, especially on press days. If we could do everything in 2 days, she'd be fine. She'd be a workhorse. She'd start at 5 in the morning getting here and make, and we would go until 7 o'clock at night sometimes. We worked it in that we recorded that both of those songs back to back in this studio in New York, and we literally filmed B-roll of it, which became the music video for "Every Time It Snows." And to be in that room with the two of them, because John again is an amazing singer-songwriter, tremendous
Yeah.
talent. She was a big fan of his talent, but to see just the musicianship of the two of them was incredible. Again, it was another one. I think it was 2 takes. And really, I think the second take was more for safety. Like, well, the first one was kind of perfect, but we should probably do it again just so we have another take. And then the same thing happened with "Lost Inside Your Heart."
Yeah.
I think that was done in 2 takes. I think we recorded both of those tracks, if I'm not mistaken. I think we recorded those both in like a 2-hour window.
Wow.
So it was, a pretty incredible experience.
Yeah, he's quite a talent for sure.
Oh, incredible, incredible.
Underappreciated in my book, I think. I mean, well,
Yeah.
he was
Well,
huge. I mean, no question
yeah,
about it.
yeah.
Rolf from Vegas is here, and thanks so much. Henrietta is asking, how is Chloe doing?
Chloe's great. Obviously it's she's dealing with the loss of her mom, and it was interesting because Chloe, obviously, we all lost her, but it was her mom. And as
Yeah.
someone who's lost their mom, I've kind of, Chloe, I'm very protective of Chloe. She's,
Yep.
like
I
my
know that.
like my little sister.
Right.
I've known her since I think she's 10 when I first met Chloe, and she's 38 now.
Yeah.
Um, Chloe her spirit, her soul is amazing. Like I said, she's working on some music, a song that she wrote for her mom that her mom loved.
I love it.
That we will be announcing more about that later, but that'll happen later this year. And
We have to bring her
she's
on, Michael, when that happens.
oh, listen, she would Chloe would love it. I mean, again, talk about someone who has stories, to have her as a mom,
Yeah.
but again, Chloe's very grounded, just like her mother. She's super talented, super sensitive, almost sometimes to a fault. I always yell at her, I'm like, let that go, stop worrying about that.
Right.
And then she's like, oh, I'm sorry. She jokes, and she'll call me daddy. Daddy, I'm
That's so
sorry. I'm
great.
like, I'm not your father. Stop, I'm
Uh,
not that old. And then I'm like,
I'll tell you what,
cool.
having a good authority. Olivia's looking down on you, Michael, with just beaming and just so appreciative that you continue to look out for the family.
Listen, the family and the legacy, those are the most important things right now.
Absolutely, absolutely right. Joel wants to know, is the Olivia documentary still happening?
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's everything's in pre-production right now, so
Awesome.
we'll have some news on that. I'm hoping in a couple of months, but yeah,
That's great.
a lot, as most people know, a lot goes into a feature. It doesn't happen overnight, and there's a lot of moving parts, but yeah, it is very much still moving forward. And I'm hoping, I don't want to say a release date, I'm hoping at some point maybe the end of next year or early 2026, but I'm hoping the end of next year is when it
We
will
can't wait.
be ready. Yeah, fingers crossed. It could be sooner, it could be later. Again, it's all up in the air.
It's going to be amazing, I'm sure. Sarah just wants to say she was the most genuine, kind angel. And Sarah also wanted to know if there ever was if the Vegas residency was ever recorded visually on video.
We recorded not most of the show. We recorded most of the big numbers that we needed just for what we call B-roll,
Yeah.
so we could have B-roll footage, but it wasn't recorded in a way that it would be released as a concert special, because we didn't record it from start to finish. As Steve, or I'm sure you're aware, it's quite costly
It is.
to not just record it, but then to release it, and just all the expenses that go along with that. It's
Yeah,
a
and it's
little
like the
cost
Wild West
prohibitive.
now, trying to get a film
Yeah,
placed. You
yeah,
know.
no, totally.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's talk. We know some people. Maybe we can help the cause. And I just want to remind everybody we're celebrating the memory, amazing contributions of one Olivia Newton-John. Her final project is now available together as an exclusive bundle. It's entitled, of course, Just the Two of Us, the Duets Collections, Volume 1 and 2. Includes Barry Gibb, John Travolta, Richard Marx, Michael McDonald, Cliff Richard. Also, I mean, he is like royalty in the UK, and he had some success here. What a talented guy. And
Oh
I'm
my God.
so glad he's part of that project for sure. Delta Goodrum, John Cicada, we just talked about, Andy Gibb, Dionne Warwick, Marie Osmond, and Marie, her daughter Chloe, and of course Mariah Carey and Jolene, that wonderful rendition with Dolly Parton. Just hit the buy button. The rest is quick and easy. You'll receive a beautiful 8x10 photograph of Olivia that was hand selected by her for her fans, and also a facsimile signature. Someone asked if we had a shot, and I'm sorry, I don't think we do. If Sam, if we do have one, if you could throw it up, but I'm sorry, I don't think we have that handy. Last thing I want to ask you is we wanted to touch on Barry Gibb. You weren't part of the sessions, but you did have an opportunity to spend some quality time with him.
Yeah, Barry's a wonderful guy.
Yeah.
One of the first times I spent a significant, because I met him many times through Olivia, but he was our guest star when Olivia did her concert at the Ryman Auditorium in Nashville.
Yep.
And just, spending the day, because, you get to the hotel, you all have lunch together, then you go to the venue and you do your sound check, and then you've got all that downtime between the sound check and the show. And just listening to him tell stories. And Barry, again, very much like Olivia, so low key in terms of, I'm not a star, don't treat me like a star. I
Love
make
that.
music, and he was just, again, he's just, one of the most, kind men. And, when Olivia lived in Florida, obviously Barry and his wife, Linda, lived in Miami. So we
Right.
would, see them on and off. But Barry came over to Australia to perform at one of Olivia's black tie galas to raise money for her wellness center in
Yep.
Australia. And the photo actually that you guys showed, that was when we were in the studio rehearsing for the live show that she and Barry did. And again, they've known each other since they're teenagers.
Yeah.
And, Olivia was very much, she was never a showbiz, a Hollywood person. Her
Right.
Hollywood friends were few and far between. Like, I mean, she knew a lot of people and she loved a lot of people, but close friends in the world of Hollywood, I could count probably on one, maybe two hands, from, Lisa Gibbons, Marie Osmond, Barry, Travolta, Cliff, Cliff especially. Cliff was, I mean, he's the reason she really had such a breakout career, because she in fact started singing backup on his TV show, and then ended up,
Right.
rising. And then, obviously, I've spent a lot of time with Cliff, and he's just a wonderful guy.
Yeah.
And
And a
again,
talent.
another one that was so soft spoken. If you're around Cliff Richard,
Yeah.
Travolta, Cliff, you're around any of them, none of them play the Hollywood card. It's
Love to hear
they're
that.
they're all just, we are so blessed that we are lucky that we're doing what we're doing and people still show up,
Yeah. How
and
great.
people buy tickets or buy albums or whatever it happens to be. But all of them are just really wonderful people.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of wonderful, Michael, you've been absolutely magnificent.
Oh,
And
thank you.
I'm going to dog you day and night until you finish that book, because we need to have you back on for that, and certainly for the next projects, whether it's Chloe's album or the next endeavor with Olivia's name on it. We have to have you back. And before we let you go, I wanted to say shout out to Henrietta, who's always on supporting us. Thank you, Henrietta, and for all the fans for being here tonight, and for continuing to spread the love and the musical legacy of Olivia Newton-John. Also, want to say many thanks to the amazing Olivia DeMasters, also Megan Wright, Blake Davis, Emmy Chambers, Chad Smith, and everyone at Primary Wave. Such a great group, and we do a lot of projects with them. We love those people. Dominic Pandisha as well, and all of our good friends over there. Also, our friends at Virgin Music and Fulfillment Partners AMS, to Brian, to Tina, Brad, Joe, Jenny, Kate, Marty, Tony, and behind the scenes today, working all the buttons, and the Magic Sam, everyone from Talk Shop Live. And again, special appreciation to Michael Caprio for sharing his amazing remembrances. And of course, to Olivia Newton-John for the many great moments of music still here for all of us to share and enjoy. And again, for many generations to come. Michael, any last thoughts you'd like to share with Olivia fans before we part company?
Steve, actually, there is one. I would like
Yeah.
to just let the fans know how much that they meant to her. I had a lot of opportunities where we've traveled the world and we've done signings and book signings and you name it, we've done everything. One in particular was, we were in London and we were driving to do a book signing in Leicester Square, and I'll never forget, it was pouring down rain. Olivia rolled the window down and she was so upset that there were people standing out on the sidewalk in the rain with no umbrellas. So when we got into the bookstore, she said something to the manager. He goes, "Oh, they're used to standing in the rain. They're fine with it." When we were halfway through it, the manager, she had to go to the restroom, and everybody thought she was leaving. And she's like, "No, I just have to use the loo." We went upstairs and the manager said, "Olivia, this is really going long. If you can just do me a favor and just maybe sign Love Olivia, don't personalize them and don't take photos." And there had to be 1,000, maybe 1,500 people at that event. And Olivia, she said, with all due respect, she said, the person who was first in line has to have exactly, sorry, the person who's last in line has to have exactly what the person got who was first in line.
Wow.
And I remember driving back in the car with her back to the hotel we were staying at off Hyde Park. And I looked at her because I was the one writing down everybody's name so she didn't have to spell it.
Yeah.
I said, "Oh, honey, we had an out. Oh my God, we could have been out of here 2 hours earlier." She goes, "Michael, my mom taught me I'm where I'm at because of everybody who was standing in that line."
How beautiful.
And it might have been the 1,000th person I've met that week. But if that's the first time they were meeting me, they've made my life so special. I need to make that moment special. And I'll get emotional talking about it now because that's who she was.
Yeah. Really appreciate you sharing this and opening up. It
Yeah,
means a lot to us fans. And
yeah,
thank you so much for that, Michael. And fans, I just
please.
want to say before you call it a day, pick up this exclusive bundle. This is a labor of love. Michael was directly involved with it. You heard how important it was to Olivia. The music is just amazing. The artists, incredible top to bottom. The duets collection, volumes 1 and 2, on 3 vinyl albums, plus an exclusive 8x10 photo. So you heard personally selected by Olivia for her fans, and the facsimile of her signature, something you will treasure for many years to come, and you can pass on as an heirloom for multiple generations. And while you're at it, pick one up for your friends and family members. Don't forget, it's Mother's Day is coming up, and Father's Day is right around the corner from that. It'll enhance their quality of life. They will thank you for it. And with that, Michael, thanks once again. It's an absolute joy to have you on, and really appreciate you being here.
Steve, thank you for having me, and thanks to all the fans who continue to keep her legacy alive. It means a lot.
Absolutely. And with that, folks, stay safe, enjoy life. So long, everybody.